All right, you guys, hello on this sort of sunny, but also nicely partly cloudy day. This is Amy with Change the Conversations. Very excited to be back with you guys and really excited about our guest today because not only is she an awesome practitioner kind of in the health community, but she also happens to be the newest member of the healing space. She's joined our team as her business, which is Wild Clover Wellness. I'll let her tell you more about that, but just really excited to have Lindsay on today and sharing more about how she's bringing holistic nutrition coaching in just kind of a different way into our community. And so I am fresh out of the shower, you guys. Doesn't get any more real talk than this today. I barely have makeup on. I don't think I have any lip stuff on. My unfinished breakfast is sitting here and we are just making do because I want to keep meeting with you guys and having these conversations regularly. So Lindsay was great enough to jump on today. And so here we are. So welcome, Linz. And why don't you just share a little bit more about Wild Clover Wellness and how you got into this aspect of wellness and what you've got going on? Because there's a lot.
There's a lot. So my business, Wild Clover Wellness, is holistic nutrition coaching for women. As far as like the getting started of it, it goes back to when I was a kid, pretty much. I was fortunate enough to be exposed to holistic nutrition and healthcare and kind of that different way of thinking because my mom went on her own health journey and was kind of at that dead end point with doctors and had to figure it out on her own how to heal her body. So, and that was way back in the 90s. Like, I love saying that now, forever ago. But that was before holistic health and naturopathic care and all of that was really even a thing. And she really had to dig and search and advocate for herself. And so I kind of watched that journey. And I, would get to we had Vitamin Cottage. We lived in a little mountain town. So we were already kind of like crunchy and hippie and that sort of thing there. And so I just remember, like, still to this day, the smell of the health food store and like just being so interested in all these products and foods that were just like real food, right? And so, and she would have books. And so I was always just had this natural curiosity about it. And I would literally just read books on like natural remedies or that sort of thing. So it was always like a part of me in the back of my mind. And I had this curiosity. Well, I guess at that time, I didn't really know, I could make this a career, right? So I did the normal, like, kind of went to college, didn't really find my passion there, got married young, had babies young, and that was just my life, which was great. And I definitely like implemented stuff I had just learned on my own with my kids. And their care and well-being, as far as what's expected. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the word vaccine or you'll get...
We'll find out.
We'll find out. So, that I really advocated for them in that sense. So I was always kind of just looking at like the other side of things. And it has taught me that there are alternatives. There's always an alternative. So that's one thing I want people to be aware of is like that advocating for yourself, your kids, your family, that the possibility that there could be another way to do health and wellness, right? I was full-time mom for a long time. And just as I've gotten older and try to get back into the workforce, I've tried so many different avenues and just kept feeling this pull that I was not doing what I was meant to be doing. Like, this is what lights me up. I'm always kind of like veering back this way, but then life and responsibilities, calls you other ways to get a job or just make it happen. So finally kind of got to my rope's end with just working in corporate or behind a desk, just made the decision to go to the Nutritional Therapy Association, the beginning of 2022, I think it was, because I just knew that if I was going to live a fulfilling life, I had to follow this passion of mine. So I did it, went to school while I was working full time, loved almost every minute of it. Loved what I was learning, loved that I, knew that I was on a different path. And so since then, I've just recently been able to leave that full-time job and just throw myself into this business and this world, and connecting with awesome women like you who are in business or other wellness practitioners. And it's amazing. And I just feel the right, I'm just in the flow and on the path, and I can't wait to work with more people and get that out there. So yeah.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure we could spend the whole episode unpacking the doing what you're called to in life, obligations versus passions. Like we could go down that whole rabbit hole too, and maybe we'll get there. But I do think it's so interesting how sometimes, like you said, our own kids and how we want to live life, and sort of it can even feel like sometimes you're almost forced to choose when you're up against some sort of decision, a health thing, or just what's considered like average healthcare and, normal doctor's visits, well visits, whatever. And having kids or having that sort of incident kind of forces you to be like, wait, what is it I do believe in? What is it do I want to choose?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of crossroads, because same thing with my kids, and they've never had any shots of any kind in their bodies at all, and they're almost 18 and 15. So yeah, we'll see if the episode gets censored. I don't think I have a big enough platform for that to happen yet.
Okay.
They can't take down Rogan, like, let's just all go for it, right?
Right.
Well, tell us a little bit. So Wild Clover Wellness, what is your favorite scenario to walk with someone in? Like, what types of clients, what types of approaches do you love taking? What ways do you like to walk with and support people?
Mm-hmm. Well, I can walk with a lot of different people, like as far as issues, if it's like digestive or hormonal or that sort of thing. But like the woman that I would, be picturing that I love to come alongside would be likely a mom. And like the word I get is depletion. Like she's just depleted, whether it's, emotionally, physically, all of that stuff. And my philosophy is definitely a holistic approach. So taking into account not only the physical body, but also like the emotions and the spirit and mental wellness and all of that. So, being able to support her in all of those areas. And so like with my approach is definitely foundational. So we're not, just looking at symptoms or putting band-aids on or just doing like elimination diets and, well, that's how it's going to have to be the rest of your life. But like really digging down at the root level, cellular level, really, and seeing like where that dysfunction is and then building that foundation back up. So I do a lot of like questionnaires and assessments that ask about different symptoms, but then they all lead to different systems in the body that are needing support because there's usually like a trend. And then something I'm really excited to offer now just recently is the hair tissue mineral analysis. And this is so awesome. So HTMA for short, I usually refer to it like that. But basically, the person sends in like a few small clips of hair from, the underside of the hair, just a little bit. And then they send it to a lab in Texas. And then I receive this report that shows all the different mineral deficiencies or imbalances, toxic heavy metal that might be, and it's a snapshot of like the last 2 to 3 months usually. And it's, it's not diagnostic. It's not like the end all be all, but it's a really awesome tool to kind of see like where those imbalances are in the body, because minerals affect every single cell in your body, like literally every function, every cell. And I feel like it's not something that people are looking at. We're all used to, blood work, which is great. There's a place for all these functional tests.
Yeah.
And I want to incorporate all of them in my practice eventually. But, the blood work, the gut health tests, all of that. But testing for minerals, I think, is just such a unique and kind of something new that people are starting to hear about. And so, yeah, so I'm really excited to offer that. And then, of course, just like super customized protocols for people to follow and that accountability and support. So that's kind of how I get started with people.
Well, I'm so glad we're starting here because I've had at least 2, and I think maybe 3 conversations with our postpartum clients this week. Just 3 conversations this week about postpartum depletion and how not always, right? But I definitely see a trend of that compounding with subsequent pregnancies, how close together pregnancies are matter, what level of support mom has during pregnancy and postpartum matters. Because like you said, mental, emotional, it's all tied together. But literally your body has such infinite wisdom to protect this new vulnerable life that during pregnancy and when you're nursing, it will pull from mom to give to baby what baby needs. And if mom isn't getting enough nutrients, that can really compound the depletion, never mind the fatigue and day-to-day life. And if they're trying to get back in the gym and we get depleted just from sweating, especially here in Arizona and even more humid areas, like just that kind of depletion. And it's so prevalent, especially with our food sources not being as high quality as they used to be. And we're so glad you're in this space. So glad to partner with you because, Emily is really passionate about non-toxic living, also our other PT, and both very passionate about nutrition, but that's not our primary area of expertise at all. But if we don't talk about what you're putting in your body, that's going to affect inflammation levels, which is going to affect their tissues and their pain, which is what we are. That is our alley. That is our lane. And so excited to be able to share clients with you. And Mallory's been a great resource too, of course, as a naturopath doing hormones and fertility stuff. So such a perfect blend and fit to really be able to support clients, and can't wait to brainstorm with you more even about we'll talk in a minute about the programs that you have going, but even maybe doing some postpartum meal stuff. But one of the clients yesterday had some postpartum mental health going on with number 2. Somewhat new because of her history that could happen, but also somewhat blindsided compared to feeling pretty great after her first delivery. And just the difference and all the possible reasons, having a boy instead of a girl feels differently. Hormone levels are different. Also being number 2, other circumstances going on amongst her broader family. And just these different pieces, but the depletion is so real. And like you said, even magnesium alone, which is one mineral, one chemical compound, can impact so many cellular functions. And I think that's great that this test, I want to hear more about that from you later, but like you said, it's a snapshot, but a really great place to start. We're hearing a lot more about heavy metal toxicity, and I think a lot of people don't know where to start. And so a test that gives at least a broad-based snapshot is such a great place to start. So I'm excited that you're offering that. Tell us a little bit more too. You've got a program. I know you did a special offer for Moment of Truth clients, but tell us about that program.
So I also lead a class called Restart. And what that is, it's a 5-week group program. It's a real food reset. So we eliminate sugar, processed foods, a lot of things like that. And again, it's done in a group setting. Right now, I've just been doing them virtually, which has been working great. Ladies can join from anywhere. I am open to doing them in person, especially like having the space now at Moment of Truth and stuff. But yeah, it's a really cool program. It's more than just like a cleanse or like a detox challenge, because we meet for about an hour. Each call is about an hour, and there's a curriculum. So I provide like really in-depth education on the body and the systems, like blood sugar and digestion and stuff. So they really get a deep dive into the why we're doing this, which I think helps connect dots for a lot of people. So yeah, I just wrapped up a class this past Tuesday, and I have them do a little like toxicity questionnaire before and then after the class. And it is like night and day. The symptoms that they were experiencing at the beginning are, I mean, not a third. It's incredible.
What are some of the biggest shifts people are noting?
So for sure, like more energy. And then a really big one in this class was less joint pain. Like there was one girl who she loves paddleboarding, hasn't been able to go because her knees have just been like so achy and painful. And she can go paddleboarding again. Like this is after like 3 weeks, Amy, of cutting out sugar and stuff. And so, yeah, things like that. There is some weight, some people drop a few pounds. But yeah, energy, sleeping better, those kind of things. Less cravings is definitely a big one.
And when's your next one kick off? It's soon, right? Next week?
Yeah, the next one is this coming Tuesday. So I'm just kind of like keeping them on rotation. So it's September 5th.
Well, this podcast won't air till the 7th, but I know we're promoting it to our crew. Yeah, we can talk more about that later, but
yeah.
Love
yeah, and there'll be more in the future. So
yeah. And it's a 3-week.
Well, the detox itself is 3 weeks. Well, I don't even like to call it a detox, just like that elimination period is 3 weeks. The class, there's 5 classes total. So it goes for technically 4 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
That way we can totally make sure we announce to that next kickoff date. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then you also obviously do one-on-one counseling and meetings and sessions related to health and nutrition and lifestyle changes. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so far I've only been doing having a virtual practice, which again works fine, but I'm excited to get face to face with some people now that I have an office space. But yeah, basically kind of like I was talking about my approach in the beginning, just assessments, like deep dive interviews. We do, I get their health history, the HTMA test, all of that. And then there's varying levels of support. Some people just want like, give me a game plan and I'm on my way, which is fine. Some people need more of that like long-term support. So there's both options available.
Perfect. And so sort of mentioned to you when I was bugging you to come on the podcast, but it's called Change the Conversation. And I think we can both agree that there is a lot of noise in the internet space. And especially now, I mean, I appreciate the flexibility and convenience that online can offer. And we're sitting here recording this online for ease of sharing it out and having a recording. But I think too, like, it's so important to have connection. And I know one of the things that I really value about how my practice is set up is being able to have the time to truly hear people's whole story, whichever part of that they want to share. And I know you take into account not just, oh, what are you eating? And that's all you're going to discuss. Like you said, it's the emotional, it's the family, it's the lifestyle pieces, it's the physical activity, it's all of the different pieces, right, that make up our life and make up our influences day to day. That being said, and all the noise in the nutrition world and all the macros and the keto and the paleo and the 8 gazillion different ways of eating. What do you feel like is the message that's most important to you?
For sure, like getting back to basics, and the concept of bioindividuality, that we are all unique and different, and one way of eating or theory might not work for everybody, and that's okay. And or even that way might work with a couple tweaks, so just like remembering that what you're seeing out there and these great results and testimonies you might be hearing, there is no perfect one way. There is no magic powder or pill or shot or anything like that. It's a holistic lifestyle that you have to choose to live and honor your body and listen to your body and eat real food. Like, simple.
Yeah, it might not always feel easy, but it's definitely not nearly as complicated as we make it. And of
Yeah.
course, I think a lot of things in our society and world have got us geared for hoping there's some sort of quick fix or magic pill.
Mhm.
And it can get overwhelming feeling like you need this supplement for this and this supplement for that and this thing. And I know, especially as someone in their 40s and trying to stay active and fit and hormonal shifts and things like that, it's pretty easy for it to get overwhelming. And so I think having a coach that breaks it down, that helps you keep it simple, that helps keep
Mhm.
making positive changes is so valuable. Um, I had worked with a coach many years ago, and I think one of the most valuable lessons I learned from him was I didn't like it at all. I wanted him to just tell me, this is the fastest, most efficient way to achieve ABC.
Mhm.
And he's like, well, Amy, how did it feel when you tried that? And I was
Mhm.
like, if I ask that question about everything I tried, this is going to take forever. And he's like, well, you need to know what works for you. And it's so
Mhm.
ironic. It's so ironic. This was part of what was irritating about it for me. I bang the awareness drum to clients all day, every day. I
Mhm.
talk about awareness as your superpower all the time. I
Mhm.
just had not applied that to nutrition. I was like, well, that's science and there should be a proven best way, da, da, da. But again, bioindividuality, right? It's like,
Mhm.
in what part of my cycle and in what aspect. And I had recently been trying that carb cycling journey, and then my cycle got irregular for the first time in my life ever. I was like,
Oh
well,
gosh.
that's rude. So now I'm doing it based on workouts, and it's fine. It's macros, right? I think well, let me stay on one topic before I jump. But yeah, that awareness. And I remember him saying to me, he's like, Amy, your stress about whether or not you eat the cake is causing way more cellular damage and cortisol and all of those things than whether or not you eat the stupid cake. He's like,
Yes.
and it finally clicked. I don't remember if it was exactly the cake analogy, but it finally clicked that,
Mhm.
whether I do paleo or whether I do keto or when I tried intermittent fasting or whatever, right? All of those things might achieve certain things, but what is it I want? And we
Mhm.
don't stop to take the time to, we'll ask that question occasionally, but to really take the time to get our own answer to it and find
Mhm.
the answer that really feels meaningful to us
Mhm.
is not something most people do in any aspect of life. What they want in business, what they want in a relationship, what they want for a career, all the things, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that awareness piece. So that kind of does lead me to where I almost jumped to, but do you think it's beneficial, or do you often have people use any kind of tracking of what they eat or diary of some sort?
I think it is hugely beneficial. It's definitely part of my intake process. They do a food and mood journal. And that, on there, it asks them not just about like what they're eating, but their bowel movements, how much water they're drinking, when they're waking up, going to bed, like, all the things. So I think most people hate to track their food unless you're like super like into your macros and you like to keep the MyFitnessPal and all that.
Yep.
There are people like that, but for the majority, it's like, I can't remember what I ate this morning, and it's a struggle, but it can be so insightful, so insightful. And especially when you are like working with someone on a path to wellness, because you'll see trends or triggers that you had no clue could have been the issue. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so valuable. And that was probably one of my things I was trying to point out for others. Because again, it's not about well, I mean, it is a little bit, but it's not so much what macros you pick as, for one thing, knowing that you have to write it down or put it in the app will make you question, do I really want those chips? Like, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to have to add all those fat and carbs into my thing in a minute here, or I'm going to have to tell Lindsay, and again, not about shame or guilt, right? It's just about choices and
Yeah,
awareness.
the
And it's like,
awareness.
oh, that was my day that I didn't count them and I ate and then I didn't sleep good that night, or I had
Mhm.
that drink and then I didn't sleep well, or like you said, being able to connect the dots.
Yeah.
Again, you guys, we can't really, I cannot say it enough. The awareness that you'll gain from the app,
Mhm.
from the diary, from the whatever. And I mean, I spent a lot of my day talking about healthy poops, and there's, I mean, if you're just going to talk about a baseline barometer of health, having
Mhm.
formed daily, not rocks, not mush. I mean, good poops is such a good general indicator of your health, and can be
Totally.
such valuable information in and of itself. I
Yeah.
think we've run into a lot of clients who think they have diarrhea and really they're constipated. So only the softer liquidy stuff's getting through. It's pretty
Wow.
common. It's part of
That's
why we do so
fascinating.
much of the visceral work. Yeah.
Yeah, even in Restart, part of the curriculum we do in the digestive section is a transit test. And I mean, I show these girls the Bristol stool chart,
Yep.
and they eat something that, they're going to watch for it when it comes out. And so that basic awareness that most of us have no idea and nobody will talk about. And, in your sphere, we talk about our baby's poop. We look at it, we show our friends, we show our doctors, we take a picture because it is so telling, right, of what's
Yep.
going on inside of them. But at some point, as we grow in age, it's like taboo to discuss that. So
Yeah.
that's funny.
Yeah. We talk about poop all day. Poop,
Yeah.
pee, sex,
Yeah.
body parts, orgasms. How's it going? Yep.
I
All
I
the
love that
things.
you just put it all out there.
Yeah.
Um,
Were you about to say something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, that's one reason I love what you're doing, and like this group is that I never had support like this when I was a new mom. My kids are almost 14 and my son is 16. So, it's been a little bit, but after I had them, I had some friends who brought me meals after. I didn't have family in town. My mom was there, I think, like a week. But I had no support, and I didn't even know I needed, like, to rebuild my core. Like, my ribs are still out of place. I still have the diastasis recti, or whatever they call it. Just because I didn't know, and replenishing my nutrients and minerals, not even a thought. So, like, the fact that we can begin to, again, with the awareness, bring awareness to women that there are these tools available and support, like, oh, how awesome.
Yeah, definitely rewarding. I'm very grateful for the crew we're putting together. I was gonna say something about the tracking or the poop. It left. It's okay.
Oh yeah.
I know. I need new. Oh, I know what I was gonna ask you. So what besides corn do you have them eat and watch?
You can do it with like white sesame seeds,
Okay.
or beets is a good one.
Yep.
And then charcoal tablets,
I feel
which
like beets turn your poop purple pretty quick though. Like we
yeah,
used
because
to
they're
juice.
more liquidy.
Well, we used to even juice beets, and you'll end up with
Go
like,
pretty quick.
it's, well, first of all, it makes the juice really pretty, and it tastes good, and like helps cover things like kale. Um, but yeah, your poop will be kind of fuchsia-y pretty, I feel
Quickly.
like very definitely the next day.
Yeah.
You don't end up pooping later. It depends on when you drink the juice too, but
Yeah. So
okay,
yeah, like corn or sesame seeds
yeah,
are probably the ones I would recommend.
yeah,
So
that's amazing. I was like, wait, what else could I track?
yeah.
It's the weirdo experimentist in me who's like,
I know. I've seen people do it with wheat bran too.
oh, I have flax meal in my shakes several mornings a week, but I don't know that I see that. Oh,
Yeah. I
Bran.
don't know. The wheat bran, it will float. Like, you'll see it floating when it does come through.
Okay,
So
interesting.
I think it's a little bit more light and I don't know, harder to break down than flax maybe. So yeah, like straight wheat bran, but you have to be careful when you're eating it, like not to inhale it.
Yeah, well, and I don't know. I'm not like strict gluten free, and I'm not celiac, but I try to not have a lot of gluten. My stomach does not love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just stick to corn then.
Yeah. And on that note, do you work with clients who are vegan, who are meat eaters, who are gluten-free, who are whatever?
I don't, I mean, I haven't had a vegan client per se. I'd be a little nervous. I would probably refer them just because like protein is so important, you know, to get in our diets. And I'm just not that well versed in like how to prepare meals, vegan meals in that sense. So yeah, I'm gluten-free, of course, because gluten is a huge trigger for a lot of people, and dairy. So yeah, more just like traditional diets, I would say. But I
Yeah.
have people I can refer, like if they are vegan, who would be better resources than I would in that area.
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard it, but we had a rancher, Sarah Burris, on the podcast a couple episodes ago talking about grass-fed and grain finished, and it's a very big trend. Especially I think, I mean, it already was, but especially following the pandemic and certain suppliers getting messed with and unavailable and different things. But just that whole grass-fed versus grain-fed debate. She even has some cows that are grass-fed, grain finished, and we just kind of talked about some of the differences and the marbling and flavor versus nutrition and all the different pieces of that. But yeah, we have grass-fed, grass-finished beef from her, and it's pretty delicious. I'm not amazing at cooking steaks and stuff, so I'm working at it.
Yeah, no, that's
Gonna
awesome.
help
And
me.
that's another, like, as far as changing the conversation, like voting with your dollars. And most people can tolerate all the food groups, right? Like even dairy, even gluten, but it's the quality and the source that matter. So it makes a huge difference. It's hard here in Phoenix. Like I know we have some farmers markets and there's ranches, you know, to get like raw milk or beef and some
Mhm.
of those things out on the outskirts. But, you know, compared to where my family lives in Colorado, where they have like just abundance of fruits and vegetables, you know, and it's hard to find sources here sometimes. So, you know, getting those resources out to people and, you know, the saturated fat myth that, you know, that beef is bad for you, like busting those myths. There's so much that we've been misinformed about, you know, for
Go for it.
profit sake.
Let's bust some more myths. That's my favorite. So
Yeah.
myth busting, saturated fat is bad for you. What else you got?
I mean, fats in general, like the oils, I think that's starting to be talked about more, the seed oils and stuff.
True. What's your take on that piece?
Stay away from them for sure. And it's hard because they're in everything. But again, I'm starting to see more brands who are making like chips and salad dressing stuff with avocado oil or coconut oil. So,
Do you typically recommend people stick with like olive, avocado, and coconut oils?
I'd say that's the easiest, but also like grass-fed butter, tallow, lard. Those
And
are
Costco now has a knockoff of Kerrygold. It's grass-fed butter that's even more affordable because they've rebranded it Kirkland, but it's
oh,
grass-fed butter.
awesome. I'll have
Tastes
to
just
check
like the
that out.
Kerrygold. I don't know if they pulled like a Trader Joe's thing and like made some labeling deal because they still sell the Kerrygold also. So I'm
Oh,
not sure what the situation is there. And while you were
yeah.
on farmers markets, I do want to say, I don't know where your family's from in Colorado, and a smaller town sounds amazing, but I do want to say we're pretty blessed, especially over here in the West Valley of Phoenix. Thank you, Krista Escobar, in large part, but we do have the farmers market every Saturday at Arrowhead Mall, and it is huge. And there's at least 2 ranchers there. Over at Healing Space, we have the beef information for Easy Ranch, which is Sarah Burris and the
Okay.
company that I order from, that we had her on the podcast.
Right.
And then there is the first week of October, there's a new farmers market starting up at Liberty High School up here in North Peoria.
Oh,
Shoot, Krista will kill me if I give the wrong information. I'm trying to remember. She might be doing that also on, I'm trying to remember if that one's on Saturday or Sunday. Get Local AZ. But that's, so speaking of which, on Facebook, if you look at Get Local AZ farmers markets, or it used to be Mama's Organic Markets, I will have that here in 1 second. I know it's the first week of October that it's starting at Liberty. I just want to double check because I'm pretty sure it's Sunday, because it used to be the one that's at Cabela's. But now it's going to be, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on Sundays. It's going to be up at Liberty High School. Yep, it's right here, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Okay, on Sundays.
And then the Arrowhead Market right here at the mall is on Saturdays. And in the winter, it goes 9 to, I think even it's either 1 or 2 also, but on Saturdays. Then I think there might still be a market down at Park West, but we also have Blue Sky Ranch on this side of town, Tomachoff Farms. And so a lot of those farms don't pay to be certified organic because that's very costly and involves a lot of inspections, but they are organically grown. They're happy to speak with you about not that they don't spray with like Roundup or anything like that. I know that's a big problem with our wheat. And I think a huge piece of, we don't have to go on like an anti-Monsanto rant, but a huge piece of why so many people now are gluten intolerant or celiac, and why our guts are so screwed up.
Yeah, for sure.
I could go on another whole tangent. I call it my grape nut debacle of 2019. But I was trying a whole different macro plan, and I wasn't used to eating a lot of carbs, and I started eating grape nuts, the cereal. And you can't buy organic grape nuts. There's just grape nuts. But it's such, like, the portion was so small. And with some almond milk and a little stevia, it was even almost like a crunchy treat. And I could pack like 47 carbs and like 8 protein into this tiny little bowl of grape nuts. And I was having it like every day. I was trying to eat much higher macros. And I got horrible joint pain. Like I was scared for my job, Linz.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, is it CrossFit? I was like, this makes no sense. I've been doing the same kind of workouts for years. And I finally figured out it was the grape nuts. And I had to do a whole gut cleanse and like heal. I'd created a leaky gut. And thankfully, just FYI, guys, if you're ever freaking out about your health and your gut health and having leaky gut, and you know you're not absorbing nutrients and you know you're not feeling good, 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks, one of Lindsay's programs. I took a gut revive powder, I think it was called. 3 weeks. There were certain foods I had to give up during that time that are healthy foods, but they just happened to be what I was eating at the same time I was eating the grape nuts. So I had to give those up for that same 3 weeks. Needless to say, I've never touched grape nuts ever again.
Yeah.
Gosh, grape nuts, but like just the gluten, like it just did me wrong.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. A lot of times it doesn't take long to kind of reverse some of those things, but wow.
Yeah, I think sometimes it gets kind of big, it gets scary, we don't know where to start. And again, the second you touch Google, now you're getting all these Facebook ads. You get, like, they inundate your social media and your stuff with whatever little search you did, but there's just so much information out there. I can't really strongly recommend enough working with the coach, or even it's really, really affordable option to do one of these groups. You've got accountability, you've got support, you've got community. I still
Which is huge.
And that's why I'm so glad I remember asking you when you were talking about coming into the space, like, are you doing virtual? And I get why it's a yes, but it was really important to me that you were also committed to doing in-person stuff, because I just think it's been so lost, of course, since 2020 and 2021. And the value of it, the difference in your commitment, the difference in showing up, like we've lost that ability to show up, you guys. We've lost that ability to show up. And the bigger problem isn't physically going places. It's that when you don't show up for that, you're not showing up for yourself. And I really can't emphasize enough the value of being physically present in a location to achieve different results, better results.
Yeah, I love that for sure. Like even for me, even though I do most of my work virtual, if I have like a doctor or some kind of appointment that says, well, it's going to be virtual, my heart sinks a little bit because I'm like, how am I going to feel connected or really get my point across, right? Like that's the thoughts I have. So yeah, this opportunity to have the ability to see people in person, it's just like, I'm so excited.
Yeah, and we can do groups and workshops in the yoga studio too. Yeah.
Yeah, and hold the babies. I want to hold all the babies.
It's nice to get the snuggles and then be able to give them back.
Yeah, exactly.
I tell my husband all the time because we treat babies. I had 3 on Wednesday or Tuesday, but he's lucky I don't get baby fever. Well, I'm lucky too because I can. Oh, the snuggles.
I know. Even when I hear him like fussing when I'm in the office and I hear him out in the front fussing, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, bring some of them to you to hold when they're interrupting mama's appointment.
Yes, please. I will take all the babies.
I said to a baby the other day, I picked him up to give him to his mom, and I was like, it's going to cost you a snuggle. You got to snuggle Miss Amy for a minute before I hand you to your mama.
Oh,
it's great to get the cuddles. So yeah, mamas, we are here for you. You can bring the babies. We'll figure it out. Even our yoga class, the prenatal, you can bring babies up basically until they're super actively crawling away and they don't stay put at all. That's kind of somewhere between 6 and 9 months. We're like, okay, no more for this piece. But all right, well, I always like to wrap up with our classic change the conversation question. And so if you had to really pare it down, Lindsay, to as you're showing up so amazingly in this new career and this endeavor that you've gotten so much training in now, what is probably the one most important aspect that you are committed to changing the conversation about?
Just kind of like I mentioned, getting back to basics and eating real food. And we can be so nourished and supported when we do that, and realize that it's not as complicated as we make it seem. So yeah, just keeping it simple and back to basics, like how a human body is supposed to eat and be nourished. We were built that way to eat real food. So I think that's it. You don't have to make complicated diets or a boatload of supplements or magic powders. The magic powders, you hear me keep referring to those drive me crazy when I drink this drink and it solved all my problems, right? Like, okay. So yeah, back to basics, for sure. And not being afraid of real nourishing food.
Awesome. I love it. I think the other really huge benefit of being in community is, I know this is a mindset thing, so I'm going to be careful how I choose my words right here. When I meal plan, my life is easier. That used to feel big. That used to feel overwhelming. Sometimes if I'm not in a great headspace, it still does, which is why I had to stop the sentence that almost came out of my mouth. But it makes life so much easier. And then when you're with a coach or when you're in community, you can share the burden and you get to meal plan, you get to make better choices. It just takes so many decisions out of the week. I can't even tell you the mental burden it takes off.
That's so true. And if you don't, or you go off track, just get back on track the next day or the next week. Like that's the other thing too. Like we have to live our lives, right? Like there's going to be times when you just can't or don't want to eat the real food or meal plan or whatever. And that's okay. Just do your best and then get back on track when you can. Like grace.
Yeah. And I think that's another piece in the community as you learn, because you realize that if the person next to you said that, you'd be like, it's okay. Start better today. Reset today. But to ourselves, we say the most horrible things. And so again, when you're in community or you have a group, even online, whatever, it reminds you to be kinder to yourself. We're our own harshest critics. And 100%, like I encourage people to like, don't set up your week and then have a cheat meal. And God bless, do not turn that into a cheat day. set up your life and then choose that day. It's not a cheat. That just sets up such a negative dynamic. It's like, no, I'm going to celebrate this dessert because we're out to dinner, or because it was my kid's first whatever, or because it's
Right.
her birthday, or just because I want to have ice cream Saturday, like whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because Brewster's was having a sale, like whatever, right? And so yeah, just not setting ourselves up for these
That balance, yeah.
Yeah.
Like kind of like the 80-20 rule. I think that's great, a great kind of motto to live by. And in Restart, we have the Restart rule, which is like, whatever I eat, I choose it consciously, I enjoy it thoroughly, and then I let it go. So like,
I love that. Say it
isn't
again.
that awesome? I know, we say it after every class. I think it's so empowering. And like, you're gonna have that piece of cake, you better enjoy the heck out of it, indulge, love every minute of it, and be okay with it. You chose that, now move
So
on with your
whatever
life.
I eat, I choose consciously.
Yeah, I choose it consciously, I enjoy it thoroughly,
And then I let it go.
then I let it go. So yeah,
Love
that's
it.
awesome.
We'll put that great stuff in the show notes to you guys. And please share this out. I think it's important to have these conversations, or I wouldn't have invited Linz on the podcast, but it's important to have these conversations. It's important to think more mindfully about our choices. We'd love to hear back from you, like what things are working for you, what questions you have, what things you're choosing right now in your life, where you'd like support. And of course, we always love to hear what other guests or topics you'd love for me to cover on the podcast. So looking at even doing some solo episodes on some of my passion topics like sex and orgasms and healthy poops. And so we'll have that coming up for you whenever I figure it out. So yeah, thank you so much, Lindsay. Really grateful that you took the time to be on today. And yeah, you guys, it's another episode of Change the Conversations. Please share it out with your friends, like, subscribe, all the things, you know what to do. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Awesome.